Good. I'm back, right? Hopefully, like I never left. So I tried to go live on Facebook. Apparently, it wasn't meant to be just Facebook, and it wasn't meant that it would not be able to be searchable on YouTube or found again. I guess impromptu today's spirit led at I don't know what we're gonna call it. It is definitely provision for where you are for your current season. And so I'm just going to start over and tell you good. My name is Leonore Reynolds Jones. I have the awesome privilege of being the proprietress of a wonderful kingdom enterprise called the Legacy Builders. Necessary tools and skills to not just figure out who they are and why they're here, but also to leave a lasting legacy. And so, you know, I was saying earlier, because to be clear, guys, ooh, I was actually, and Facebook wouldn't let me be great. And so I literally had to come in, scramble, get everything else situated, and we're trying again. Okay, we're trying again. But I had started explaining to you that I am a member of this thing called the Destiny Collective. It is led by Sean Evans Daniels. And if I am able, I will go ahead and post that link in the comments somewhere so that if you're interested, you can get additional information. That only matters to you so that it can be the springboard for what I want to talk about or share with you today. And that is that. So last night we had a gathering, and she said something that rung in my ears, and immediately propelling all over the place. And I was like, "Ooh, sis!" And so what she said that destiny. Marshawn Evans Daniels said this. Destiny is. It is not simply a destination. And to be clear, she didn't say it's not a destination, but it's not just a destination. It's a frequency and a realm. And I will not explain it in the way that she explained it, but here's my explanation. When we think destination, we think someplace that you can just go to. Like, you're going to go and there's a specific set route. And you can just, like, if I start here, I can buy this plane ticket and I start here and I'm going to end up over there and I have arrived at destiny. What she is saying, it's not just an arrival point, but it is a frequency, as in you can tune into it. And if you're attuned to it, you will always hear the whisperings of destiny in every interaction that you have. But it is also a realm that you can ascend to. I think she referenced in, I think it's Isaiah 55, where it talks about, for I am the Lord, and my thoughts are higher than your thoughts, and my ways are higher than your ways. So the heavens are above the earth. That is the idea that God dwells above us, as we've always heard and we've always understood. And so that makes destiny a place to ascend to, right? And I was like, oh, that's good. That's good. And so this morning now I'm talking to one of my girlfriends, and we start talking about this idea of destiny, because when Marshawn said it, it wasn't just what she said that captured me, but it was what it meant. Because while the revelation in and of itself is full and complete and beautiful, where I chose to focus it though was, how do you access the realm? How do you tune in to the frequency? And if it's a destination, how do you get there? And what God whispered to me that was just your like thing, and you're like, oh girl, I see what you did there. It was this idea that faith is the key. And that's why the topic today is I got keys. Because really what happened is that, ooh, there we go. Got to be in the middle of the picture, right? Even though I'm leaning. I'm sorry. I'm trying to do the best I can without a stand here. But faith is the key. And so And we've heard this, right? We've heard in the Bible that without faith, it's impossible to please him. And I'm sure if you grew up in church, you heard the quote that faith is the key in the hand that unlocks heaven's storehouse. Like we've heard those types of sayings. And I was like, man, like faith is the key. And then I started thinking about, let's add to those things that I just said, this idea that the Bible said we are all given a measure of faith. And I was like, okay, so if faith is the key to destiny, and not just the destination of destiny, not just the frequency of destiny, but the realm of destiny, how then why do we struggle so much in arriving or ascending or tuning into it? And what God literally started just speaking to me was the importance of keys. Because again, I just bought a house. And after closing, after we signed all those papers, what they gave us was a bunch of keys. And we then had to go and figure out which keys unlocked which door. And the truth is, on that bunch of keys, there were keys that fit in a particular door that didn't unlock it, but it fit it. And because it fit the lock, it was easy to think that, oh, this fit. And even though there are other keys on the bunch, you stay here fiddling with the key that is clearly not unlocking it just because it fits. Or you listen, when I think about that you have this particular key, and beyond like this bunch, think of, you got a bunch of keys. So, or you have a couple of keys that look the same. You ever seen like the janitor from your school, or if you are church, that the head deacon, and everybody calls them to open everything at the church, and he whip out his bunch of keys, and his bunch of keys is like literally a handful. It's a big old set of stuff. And he comes and he has a bunch of keys that looks the same, and nothing's labeled. And so you're waiting for him to open this door. And what does he have to do? He has to try key. Oh, it's not that one. And he flicks again to another one that looks like the one he just had. And he tried that one. And then everybody's excited when the right key finally opens the door. Right. So it's this moment where you have the right key for the right door. And then you are granted what? Access. And so I thought about so the problem was so then faith becomes not just about opening doors, it's about granting access. And guys, I'm telling you, I'm sitting here in this conversation with my girlfriend, and we are talking, and I'm just getting this download, and we're talking through it. And she was like, we really need to record our conversations. And at that moment, I was like, oh, so this isn't just for us. This is something that I actually have to share. And so I knew I had to go live with it. But back to what I was saying, this idea is that we have these keys. And as I begin to talk about this, I was like, well, how did we get all these keys in the first place? Right? Because remember, I said God gives us a measure of faith. And as I was sitting there, God started whispering to me, what if the experiences in life and in our growth and in society, what if they teach us other things are keys other than the one God gave us? Because the Bible says God gives everyone a measure of faith. But what if society taught you that your network was a key? What if you grew up in a household where they told you education, a college education in particular, was a key? What if they told you diet and exercise, or a particular religious affiliation or structure? What if your gifts became your keys? And so what we've done over the course of our life is collect keys. And so we come to this place, these moments of destiny, right? We begin to tune into our destiny. We have turned our ears to God. He is speaking, and the frequency is destiny. And we are beginning to hear him now, and we are trying to access it, but we're trying to use the wrong keys to open the right door. Because you, like in my case, and I'll just use myself and as example, I wanted to use my credit score, my income, my education, my experiences. I wanted to use all of those to open the door to home ownership again. And God was like, no, the key I gave you was faith. And I gave it to you at the beginning. But you have collected all these other keys, and we are standing at the door of destiny, and we are using all the other keys except faith. And without faith, it's impossible to please him. And so we have all these keys that we've collected over our life, and we're using them in attempts to get to what God has invited us up to. And God could give us the invitation because he had already given us the key. And so I want you to hear me say that you don't need to qualify for what's already been given to you. Just use the key. Use your faith. And as I think about that, don't be confused by which key it is. Because if we go back to the janitor analogy or the head deacon analogy or the person with the bunch of keys, there's your car key, and there's like, it looks specific, but when we think about house keys, we got a bunch of different keys that look the same. And so you have keys, again, that may fit in the lock, but it won't turn it. But because it fits, you keep going back to it. Or you have other keys that look different, and you're just like, man, let me try. And you're trying all these keys except the one that you've had in your possession the entire time. Because there's no way that this key that I've had this whole time is the one that's sorry, guys, on my phone here. But so you've had God, like God's been telling you, daughter, telling you, son, just trust me. Just believe me. Believe that I want to do this. And you're like, there's no way that believing is enough. Literally, you have convinced yourself that there's no way that believing, that having confidence that God is who he says he is, and not just who he says he is, but that he will do for me as he has done for others. Because it's not just, sometimes the question of faith is not about God in terms of his ability. It's about your relationship between God, where the enemy will convince you that will God do that for me? Because he continues to show you your faults and your flaws and all the things you did wrong and all the other stuff. And we start believing, that, well, maybe I don't deserve that. Or maybe I didn't, I messed up last week. I ain't prayed this morning. And we start to, count all these things, and we start to assign things to God that aren't his. And he's like, no, you're one of my favorites. Not only do I want to do it for you, if you let me, I will do it for you. You just have to believe me. And so I am sitting here in a home that the only thing I had to qualify myself was that I believed that God would for me. It wasn't about our money, because God literally consistently gives me things for free. And I'm not joking. I want y'all to look at my nails. They're beautiful. And if you've watched me for any length of time, you would have seen that I generally keep my nails done. And true story, I have been actually waiting to get it done, waiting on a check, truthfully, to come. And God made a way yesterday that I got my nails done for free without asking. It was offered to me. God doesn't need your money. He doesn't need your network, doesn't need your education. And I'm not saying don't get the education, because I'm literally about to go back to school again. But what I'm saying is you can't put your faith in those things and expect they're going to grant you access to the destiny God has promised. The key only works if it's put in the right door. And the door is your confidence, your belief in who God is, that he is not just that the father of the world, but he's your father, and that he loves you, and that he cares for you specifically, and that he has plans for you. Like he says in Jeremiah 29:11, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you a hope and a future. Those are the keys. And so, folks, I got keys, but you have keys too. And the encouragement from me to you today is the only key you need is the master key. Whoo, Lord Jesus, Jesus, you got jokes. Because even when I said it the first time, it never occurred to me that one of the names that we call Jesus is Master. Think about, I think about the disciples in the boat, and they were like, Master. If you read in the King James Version, they like, Master, carest thou not that we perish? Jesus is the master key. Faith in him will unlock every door and grant you access to every area and arena of your life and of your destiny. But you have to tune to that frequency. You have to ascend to that understanding. And most importantly, you actually have to try him. Because the last thing I want to tell you is keys don't work in hands, they work in doors. And you're like, sis, what? If I have a bunch of keys that somebody put in my hands, what good is the keys in my hands and not in the door? Having the keys in your possession does nothing if you do nothing with them. And so I encourage you today that if the Spirit has been speaking to you, if destiny has been calling to you, if the frequency has been buzzing in your ears, if you are being elevated into different understandings and different realms and different positions and access is being offered you, what I want you to hear me say, is that all you need is faith. Faith is the key. Use it and access would be granted. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for taking the time out to watch this broadcast. If you are watching from the replay or if you are watching live, this is where I ask you to share. Like and share this broadcast. Send it to somebody who you know has keys, but they're not using them, or who has been using the wrong keys in an attempt to open the right door. I just want you to know that his word is true. He is a God who does exceedingly and abundantly above all you can ask, think, or imagine. But he only does it if you let him. Today, I invite you to let him. Bye-bye, and thanks so much for joining me.